Picture the biggest dog you've ever seen. Maybe it's a Great Dane standing nearly as tall as your waist. Maybe it's an English Mastiff weighing more than 200 pounds. For a moment, imagine that dog getting even bigger, double its weight, then double it again. Now you've got an animal approaching the size of a tiger, and that's where something starts to feel very strange, because nature has built enormous cats. Tigers can weigh more than 600 pounds. Lions can push past 400. Jaguars are built like compact tanks, with muscles designed to overpower animals much larger than themselves. But when you look at the dog family, the story suddenly stops. The largest wild canid alive today is the grey wolf. The biggest individuals can approach 150 or even 175 pounds. That's impressive. But next to a tiger, it's not even close. And the weirdest part is that dogs and cats aren't completely different inventions. They both have teeth. They both have claws. They both chase prey. They both evolved from carnivorous ancestors. So why did one branch of the family tree produce giant predators weighing hundreds of pounds while the other seems to hit a ceiling? Why aren't there 400-pound wolves? Why isn't there a 500-pound wild dog? And more importantly, why did evolution apparently get so close to making one? The answer starts with something that looks almost completely unrelated to size: the feet. Hidden inside those paws are retractable claws. When the tiger walks, the claws can stay protected. When it attacks, they come out sharp, curved, and ready to grab. A tiger doesn't necessarily need to chase its prey for miles. It can hide, wait, explode forward, use its claws to grab the animal, and then finish the attack with its jaws. The entire strategy is built around a few seconds of extreme violence. Dogs have a completely different problem. Their claws don't retract, they're exposed every time they walk. That means the ground gradually wears them down. Instead of being razor-sharp weapons, they're more useful for traction. They're closer to running shoes than knives, and that tiny anatomical difference changes the entire hunting strategy. A wolf can't reliably jump onto a struggling animal 3 times its own size, dig its claws into it, and hold on while delivering a killing bite. So it has another option: run. Instead of winning the fight instantly, wolves can turn the fight into a marathon. They chase, they pressure, they follow, they wait for the prey to make a mistake, and sometimes they keep going for miles. The prey doesn't have to be physically weaker, it just has to get tired first, and that creates an evolutionary trade-off, because the bigger a dog becomes, the more expensive that strategy becomes. Every extra kilogram needs energy, every extra kilogram produces heat, every extra kilogram puts more stress on joints and muscles, and when your hunting strategy depends on running for a long time, carrying unnecessary mass becomes a serious disadvantage. You've probably seen the same thing in humans. A marathon runner and a heavyweight powerlifter can both be incredibly strong, but their bodies are optimized for completely different problems. One is designed to move efficiently for hours, the other is designed to produce enormous force for a short period. Dogs are closer to the first strategy, cats are closer to the second, and once evolution starts rewarding one strategy, it becomes difficult to reverse direction. A wolf that becomes slightly bigger might be stronger, but if that extra strength makes it slower, hotter, and less efficient during a long chase, the bigger wolf may actually lose more often. So natural selection doesn't simply ask, can this animal become bigger? It asks, does becoming bigger help this animal survive? For a tiger, the answer can be yes. For a wolf, eventually the answer becomes no. But that still leaves a huge mystery. If size is such a bad idea for dogs, then surely evolution should have tried it at least once. And it did. Millions of years ago, North America was home to a group of strange predators that looked like they were trying to break the rules. They were called Borophagines. Some of them were enormous compared with modern wolves. One of the most famous was Epicyon. This wasn't a giant version of your neighborhood dog. It was something much stranger. It had an enormous skull, powerful jaws, heavy bones, and a body built for crushing rather than simply chasing. Some estimates put the largest individual somewhere around several hundred pounds. For a while, these animals were among the dominant predators in their ecosystems. They had done what modern wolves never did. They pushed the dog family toward heavyweight territory, and yet they're gone, completely gone. That is the part of the story that matters, because Epicyon proves that evolution wasn't physically incapable of producing a huge dog-like predator. The body could get big, the jaws could get powerful, the muscles could scale up, but something about that strategy wasn't sustainable. And one possible answer was sitting right beside them: cats. As large feline predators became more successful, they brought something Borophagines couldn't easily copy: a different way of killing. An ambush predator doesn't have to chase its prey until both animals are exhausted. It can spend most of the day doing almost nothing. Then, at exactly the right moment, it turns stored energy into a few seconds of explosive movement. That can be incredibly efficient. Imagine 2 predators hunting the same large animal. One spends an hour chasing it, the other waits in cover, gets close, launches an attack, and kills it in seconds. Both predators get the same meal, but they didn't pay the same energetic price. For a large animal, That difference becomes enormous. A 250-pound endurance hunter needs a huge amount of food just to maintain its body. And if it fails the chase, it has spent all that energy for nothing. A large ambush predator can afford to spend more time waiting. Its size becomes an advantage instead of a liability. This is why the evolutionary arms race between cats and dogs wasn't simply about becoming stronger. It was about becoming better at a particular kind of hunting. And there's another trick dogs discovered that made becoming enormous even less necessary. They stopped trying to make one animal do everything. They used groups. A single wolf isn't a tiger. It doesn't need to be. A pack of wolves can surround prey. They can take turns chasing. They can communicate. They can pressure an animal from different directions. And most importantly, they can combine their strength. Instead of evolving one 400-pound predator, evolution can produce several 80 to 100-pound predators that cooperate. The pack becomes the giant animal. That's an incredibly important idea. Because evolution doesn't always solve a problem by making an individual stronger. Sometimes it changes the way individuals work together. A single wolf may struggle against a large elk. A coordinated pack has a much better chance. And the same principle appears in one of the strangest exceptions among big cats: lions. Lions are unusual because, unlike most big cats, they regularly hunt cooperatively, and they're also among the largest cats. That's not necessarily a coincidence. When a predator can share the costs and risks of hunting with other members of its group, it doesn't have to rely entirely on the individual body size of one animal. But cats and dogs still approach the problem differently. The tiger says, "Get close, explode forward, grab, kill." The wolf says, "Keep moving, keep pressure on, don't let it escape." Neither strategy is automatically better. They're solutions to different ecological problems, and once a lineage becomes specialized for one solution, changing the entire body plan becomes extremely difficult. Imagine trying to turn a marathon runner into a heavyweight boxer without changing almost everything about them. You would need more muscle, more bone, different proportions, different energy requirements, different movement, different cooling, different hunting behavior. And now, the animal that was previously excellent at endurance hunting has become worse at the thing it was already good at. That's the evolutionary trap. The successful strategy becomes the very thing that prevents a completely different strategy from taking over. And this explains something else that confuses people: hyenas. If you looked at a spotted hyena without knowing anything about evolution, you might assume you found the giant dog that never existed. They're muscular. They hunt in groups. They can run long distances, they have powerful jaws, they even have a vaguely dog-like body shape. But genetically, they're not dogs. They're much closer to cats and other members of the feline branch of the carnivore family tree. In other words, the animal that looks like a giant pack-hunting dog actually comes from the other side of the evolutionary family tree. And that tells us something important. There is nothing inherently impossible about a large carnivorous mammal being social, muscular, and capable of chasing prey. Evolution has produced that combination. It just didn't produce it in the dog family in the same way. So why don't modern wolves simply evolve again into giant predators? Because the world doesn't reward size by itself. It rewards whatever combination of traits produces more surviving offspring. If a wolf becomes bigger but loses endurance, it may lose its advantage. If it becomes heavier but needs more food, it may struggle when prey becomes scarce.